side of AI.
The dark side. So the news stories are next. Oh, well, or not.
I was sharing.
Oh, okay.
Okay. AI assisted fraud, trust collapse online,
Yep. That's why we're gonna have to
identity
go to.
manipulation,
Yep.
autonomous scam systems, social engineering becomes industrialized, and other than that, everything is fine.
Yeah. So now you want to talk about the war. This to me, way scarier than the war. Because this is endemic and systemic. That and the quantum, we keep getting closer. It's not a thing yet, but I think they'll figure it out. But the whole quantum computing thing. So there's some big scaries coming. Luckily, people are already starting, like Zoom is going to start. I think they're going to have the iris scanning thing for Zoom calls now. So get ready. You've been saying, oh, this, but you see now why it is necessary.
Yeah.
Because the deep fakes are just so amazing. We need to find a way to prove who we are, and that is a whole philosophical discussion. Because if you're metaphysical like me, then you're like, who are we really? What does it mean to be human? I think that's one of the most interesting things about this whole AI thing, is that it makes you, especially with AGI, and I think AGI is already here. It's just very specific. But I do think about that a lot, like, what is the difference between me and AI? What makes us uniquely human, so that when AI takes over all the boring shit that we didn't really want to do anyway, then what special sauce do we have to add to it? Especially for people who have like this really dark view of the, AI is going to kill us. It's going to decide that humans are the problem with the world, and so it'll just get rid of us. But if it's as smart as people want to believe that it is, it has to know that it's not that simplistic. It's kind of like, there was a problem with, I think it was the coyotes or something, attacking farm animals and stuff. So they started killing all the coyotes, and then they got overrun with rabbits. It's the world is a delicate ecosystem, right? And I don't think the AI is going to be so stupid. I think that it's going to find value in humans, you know, and that it's not our God. I don't like that narrative, that we're going to create this super human that will be godlike and everything. And I actually think it's the opposite. When I was training, studying with the Sufis way back in my early 20s, but their theory was that God created everything, but God was everything, and so it couldn't see itself. And so the specific purpose of us as human beings is to reflect back the beauty and the mystery to God. And that was, that's an interesting story. And I think that's what we're doing with AI. We're creating this thing that reflects back to us the beauty of what it's like to be a human. Because every time I use AI, I'm just reminded how it's really smart. But like I've told you, working with AI for me feels like I'm working with the smartest, fastest 12-year-old. There's so many things about the world that it doesn't understand, but it is reflecting back to us, what does it mean to be human? you know, because we used to just be humans, like we lived in tribes and we were hunter gatherers, and then we were herders or farmers or whatever, and we were very social, and it was about the group, and we didn't have jobs, we just lived. But for the past few hundred years, our identities have all been wrapped up in money, which is a fake thing, and a job, which is a fake thing where you trade your time for these pieces of paper from some entity, right? But who are you, and what value do you add to the world? This is what you guys get when I fast for 2 days. So
Right. Well, I
Or
mean, I was
very
going to say,
mystical.
I was going to say that the crypto version of human is when it goes up, you wear a lampshade on your head and party, and when it goes down, you cry.
I think there's so much more to that, and I do think, you know, that this AI is pushing a spiritual crisis of sorts, you know, that we're going to see. Like they used to, all the hippies talked about in the 1970s, the age of Aquarius. You know, we had no idea what that meant. I think back then they thought it meant don't work and just take a lot of drugs, which is what they did, right? But maybe we'll go back to that. Maybe everybody will quit their jobs and just, you know, or like I said, that story I was fascinated about when I was a kid, you know, when the robots take over and have all the jobs, then your job becomes to use stuff, you know,
And trade crypto.